Chuckle Lennox. I'm a reenactor. And for 36 years in the classroom, I tried to recreate history for my students to make the subject more tangible. So to that end, I would wear the garb for the time period. I would play the music for whatever time period and culture we were studying. And that would be the soundtrack for my classroom. I would bring in realia or manipulatives. That's fancy teacher talk, and teacher buzzwords for stuff you can touch, all right, artifacts. And that was intended to make the classroom and the subject more kid-friendly. And since I'm one of those people that museums hate because I touch everything, I'm very tactile, kinesthetic and all that stuff, and throw those other buzzwords out there. I figured it would work with kids, and it usually did. Well, here I am, not in the classroom anymore, yet I still have all this garb at the house. I still have this passion for bringing the past to life, and I have this desire to play history detective and to also document what's going on around me. So I want to create a visual record. What I'm doing is I'm calling this a very pretentious mission Odyssey. I'm traveling to each of the missions in Alta California, each of the asistencias, those are the spin-off missions, each of the estancias I could find. And those were ranchos that were designed to raise crops and raise cattle in support of the missions. In each of the presidios, and those are the fortifications designed to protect the missions. Well, I was at Mission Carmel, and the story kind of got away from me because there was too much information. So I'm on my way back, and I hope you stick with me on my journey. When the mission was first established in June of 1770, the mission and the Presidio were side by side, and a chapel was built and all that good stuff. But there were problems that Padre Serra noticed. It took about a year for things to build up. The land wasn't very productive for crops. There was also not as many Native Californians as he would have liked because this was about recruitment. The soldados showed way too much interest in the neophyte women. And when Portola left his deputy Pedro Fages in charge of the Presidio at Monterey, and Fages really had a different idea of who was top dog, whether it was going to be the church or the military. And so what Padre Serra ended up doing is he moved the mission to its present site. He wanted a site that was, the expression was 2 gunshots away from the sea. And in December of 1771, this place was officially the new site of Mission Carmel. The first few years for the mission were really rough as far as raising enough food. And supply ships from Mexico, from Spain, didn't show up with the regularity that they should have, which led to some problems as far as sending soldados south to the Valley of the Bears, basically San Luis Obispo area, to kill a bunch of bears and make bear jerky. In 1773, the mission nearly was starved out. By 1775, they ended up quadrupling their harvests. So things were improving. When I'm telling the story of Mission Carmel, I can't get away from telling the story of the Presidio. The two are intertwined. Aside from being like right next to each other, there's another issue involved. This was the military capital for Alta California, but it was also the religious capital for Alta California. So you have a struggle between acting governor Pedro Fages and Padre Serra. And the feud is going to continue. Fages had a reputation for being a strict disciplinarian. His soldados viewed him as a tyrant. The soldados normally worked 6 days a week. And when you hear the rest of it, then you kind of get where maybe the soldados had a reason to complain. They were, in the heavy rainy season, going into the forest to chop down trees to get lumber for building the Presidio, and they're bringing their mules up through the mud and they're dragging the trees back and, building stuff. They don't have time to wash their clothes. They don't have time to mend their clothes. They don't have time to rest. And what Fages had to say to that was, do it on Sunday. Well, it's getting uglier. The rations that the soldados are eating are really bad, as far as a lot of times the meat that's coming out of the barrels, the meat that's been shipped to them, is putrid and inedible. Of the cornmeal and flour, a lot of times had weevils in it. The soldados are hunting geese, so there goes that day of rest. They're hunting geese on Sunday to supplement their diets. They're gathering wild herbs. They're trading stuff to the Indians to get food. Like, you want this dagger? I want that food. And Alta California is becoming a very undesirable assignment. And when you have Fages telling his soldados, oh, you want to repair your stuff? Do it on Sunday. They don't have time for that either, because they've got to clean their weapons, repair their gear, be ready for inspection. Oh, by the way, they're hauling wood for Fages' kitchen, and they have to go 6 miles to the Carmel River to get water for their camp, or the Presidio itself. So the soldados have no other option but to go complain to Padre Serra. So Padre Serra ended up complaining, and eventually Fages was removed. Of course, what he ended up getting was a person who was even more interfering. Fernando Rivera y Moncada is the replacement for Pedro Fages as the governor of Alta California. And he is proving even more troublesome to Padre Serra, manages to get into a bit of a feud with him, also manages to really insult Juan Bautista de Anza, the explorer. So he's not making friends in a lot of places. And his conflict with Serra has to do with Serra wants to establish as many missions as possible. That's to help civilize Alta California. And Rivera is pointing out, I have 60 soldados to patrol between Monterey and San Luis Obispo. We don't have the troops to be able to do this. Well, there was enough complaining that went on that finally Rivera acquiesced, and the Mission Dolores was set up. Also another Presidio, the Presidio at San Francisco, and then Mission San Juan Capistrano, and Mission Santa Clara. So at least that part's taken care of. But Rivera's worst transgression, probably, at least politically, he violated the sanctuary of the church. When the Kume revolted against Mission San Diego and they burned that and they killed one of the padres, there was a temporary chapel that was erected, and one of the people involved with the revolt went into the chapel and asked for sanctuary. And Rivera, he's supposed to settle this. So as far as he was concerned, he told Soldados, no, go get that guy. And what ended up happening is you had the various Franciscan padres, they really did not like this. And what they ended up doing is they ended up excommunicating Rivera. Well, later that was rescinded. Okay, still too much stuff. That means Mission Carmel gets another visit from me. I hope you stick with me on my journey.